You spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
What are you doing?
Just getting my hard hat on, just really, drinking out of my Bank of Blue Valley cup and just blue collaring it up. What is this? What look do you have today? Is this grunge 1992? What are we doing?
You know what? I'm in this t-shirt. Actually, I wasn't going to talk about it, but maybe this is my cue to talk about it. My son's school today had a suicide, and it's a kid that my son has been doing projects and working with. And so I spent a lot of time before the show having some conversations with the school, and I didn't go get all dressed up. And I thought, well, I'm still showing up, and sometimes you have to show up when it's tough. And I'm just going to do the show, and then I'm going to go get my kiddo, and we're going to just chat. So
yeah, I went to the Blue Valley Educational Foundation breakfast, and we've had a lot of people on the show that are on the board. I didn't realize, I don't want to say the word pandemic, but I mean it's something that never is really talked about. But now that it's being more talked about, kind of like millennials talking about miscarriages. I mean, something that was just never publicized is now being publicized. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of great work being done in our Kansas City community to address and identify and make steps to prevent, as opposed to like it just happened all the time and no one talked about it.
Right. No, we actually, somebody on my team was saying she went to a Blue Valley school, and it happened quite a bit about 10 years ago when she went. And so she looked at how the school was reacting today, and it's a Lathes, and they've been incredible. But yes, this is actually my shirt. I like to do a lot of my client work on because it's all creative and it gets my creative juices thinking. So no, don't make fun of my clothes, Scott. I never make fun of your vests that you wear over everything. I never make fun of those vests.
It was funny. Someone told me the other day, you're like, what, do you part your hair and wear a vest? Is that like the white privilege thing to do? And I was like, what? I was like, I
never make fun of your.
I've never thought about that, but yeah, I probably need to quit wearing that all the time. But you know what? The vest, you can do pockets and like you can hold stuff in, but neither here nor there. But speaking of being involved in the community and investing in the community, Bank of Blue Valley, who sponsors this show, that we do whatever they say that they tell us to do because they're awesome and they're growing like crazy. They're doing a lot of hiring as well. So if you ever go to their careers page and you have a buddy or a friend that is looking for an industry that is growing rapidly, more importantly, people don't realize Bank of Blue Valley is one of the top 10 largest banks in Kansas City. Connect with Aaron and I directly, and then we will connect you directly to their team.
And I'm going to actually put in a formal request that Bank of Blue Valley actually get you a Bank of Blue Valley vest.
Well, should I be wearing vest?
I think you should. I think you should.
I love that.
Hey, say hi to us if you're over here. I want to point out that Isaac Lee Collins got the first comment of the day.
He's a big deal.
Look at the and while we're here, follow Isaac on TikTok. He just started his TikTok, and I love TikTok. All right here. Stephanie is multitasking. She's actually on the show today, so good job, Stephanie. Madison, she thinks you're hilarious. I don't know why. I always tell her, stop laughing so hard at you. It blows up.
Yeah, this makes my face look fat, but it's my child's work helmet.
1990s, ha ha ha. I would never do anything that modern. Jeff, let's have a 1990s day one day on here. It'll be way fun. You realize 1990 is a really long ways away. And then Toby, we love you too, and we think you are amazing. And Madison wants you to know she's watching on LinkedIn. So let us know where you're watching. Are you watching Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and what city are you in? This is where you network over here in the comments. So start networking. All right, Scott, you ready?
Absolutely. Speaking of networking, Toby has picked up a lot of great relationships and deals from watching the show. So a great way to network.
No wonder he thinks we're amazing. All right. Well, here we go. I'm not going to do any music today. I'm still trying to figure out this music thing. I'm just, I'm so excited that it connected today because it was spinning for a second. And, after Facebook and Instagram and everything was out all day yesterday, which is a nightmare in my field, I was like, I just hope the show goes off without a hinge tomorrow. So here we are. Carol says, watching from LinkedIn. All right, are you ready? We've got an incredible panel today. All right. And cheers, Lindsay. Lindsay is now doing video on LinkedIn, and I am so proud of her. And Matt, look.
That's the older brother.
There's three.
It just took having someone on the show for the older brother to tune in.
There's 3 Havens brothers. I learn things every single day. And Kimmel in the house, LinkedIn, KCK. Hello, Randy. Look, we got a lot of people watching from 470 at exactly 6:55. No. Pull over and watch it from the parking lot.
That's awesome.
All right.
Happy.
Here we go. Oh, I don't know why anybody watches us, but I love that they do. All right, here we go. Our first guest, I said it was going to be ladies first. Our first guest today, her son might have been on the show last week. I kind of like this follow-up. Let the son check it out first, and then we'll bring her on next. We'll bring mom on the next week. Stephanie. Hi Stephanie. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Absolutely. Okay, our second guest today is Lynn. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, thanks for having me on today.
How are you? Thank you for coming on. Third guest, he does not have his bow tie like he does in his LinkedIn profile thing. So I'm a little bit sad, but he promised me he'd wear it next time. It's Ken. Hi, Ken. How are you?
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, things we're all learning about the Havens family today. There are 3 Havens brothers, and this is the youngest. So I'm guessing that he watched Scott make all the bad decisions, and now he's the perfect one. Am I right on board? All right, Mr. Brett Havens. Hi, Brett.
Pleasure to be here. And yeah, you are correctly right. I learned what not to do, so I'm pretty much the golden child of the 3. So thanks, Scott.
How perfect would it have been if he just showed up with a vest on just because?
You know what, Aaron? The music, not having the music is great because everyone got a chance to get to hear their voice instead of us blasting music. Maybe we're not that smart for playing music.
Well, Scott, sometimes you just adapt and grow, and that's what we're doing.
It only took 70 shows to figure out that music may not be a good idea, but I like it.
I mean, yeah, not until we're the Ellen Show, and then we'll get the music and everyone can dance. We're on our way, Scott. We are on our way. All right. Matt Haven says that definitely Brett is the perfect golden child brother. So we will get there at some point in this show. But Matt, please start spreading all this good, juicy stuff we need to know about Scott and Brett in the comments, please. All right, let's get started. Stephanie, Who are you? What do you do? How do you end up in Kansas City?
My name is Stephanie Sage, and I am CEO of Sage Restoration. We are a company that helps properties and residential properties with water, fire, and mold damage cleanup. And I ended up in Kansas City when I was about 14 years old, just a few years ago. And I came from Iowa. I was born in Southwest Iowa, and my dad had different jobs throughout Iowa and then Nebraska. And then he decided to come here, and he took on a teaching position at East High in Kansas City. So I consider myself a Kansas City native, been here for many years. So that's how I came here.
You don't have a color commentator question, Scott?
Well, that was so short.
It was
You're like, what? So specifically, one thing that I really took away is the amount of hard work and building from the ground up from your business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to give people an idea, what is the size and scope of your business? And then tell us about year 1 and 2 of your business.
Why get into this space? Because especially as a woman in this space, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I remember meeting Stephanie and we were talking offline. I remember she was one of the first women-owned businesses I met when I started my business. Wow. And I think part of the reason it stuck out to me is because this is not a space you meet a lot of women in.
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely in a male-dominated industry. And how I ended up with a restoration company is I was in the mortgage industry back when the economy went into the back in 2008. And I ended up selling, I was selling mortgage loans, making tons of money, loved what I did. And then I ended up at City Financial out in Gardner, actually selling high interest title loans, making about a third of the money. And I was like, oh, heck, this is not what I want to be doing. So I talked to my husband who worked in the corporate world, and I said, we have to, do something for ourselves here. Let's look at starting a business. Because I had always felt like I had that entrepreneurial spirit, because I'd always been in commercial, like sales, commission-based sales, where you have to hustle, to make money. And so we talked to a business broker, and we looked at some different opportunities, and we decided on restoration. I like the idea of continuing to work with property owners. And we felt too that, we saw the profit margins looked pretty good. And then it also appeared to be recession proof, which at the time seemed really important to us. So we looked into the business, and we went away to training to learn the business. It was a huge learning curve, to say the least. I had no experience, no book of business in restoration. And then Alan came back, kept his job in the corporate world. So we had some cash coming in the door. And, I came back and basically hit the ground running. I mean, it was, I probably should have looked at the work a little bit more in hindsight, because it's very physically demanding work. You're lifting heavy carpet and pad, heavy equipment, pulling baseboards, pulling drywall. And I will make an interesting point here. When we went to this training, there were probably 25 other people, learning this business. And I was the only woman in attendance. And behind my back, they had gone up to my husband and they had said, your wife is never going to make it in this business. Well, I will tell you today, because that was 11 years ago, that we are probably one of the only few that are still standing and have been successful in this industry. So, I've always been a person, ignore the naysayers, believe in yourself, even when other people don't. And I'm not going to say it's been an easy ride, because it's been a journey, to say the least. I mean, there were, I had no book of business, no experience. And thank goodness I got into a networking group, BNI, because in hindsight, you got to have somebody behind you that believes in you and that can give you credibility and throw you some bones, along the way. And I didn't have any insurance work, because we just weren't on the insurance programs like we are today. It takes a lot of time to get into that world. So I started calling on realtors. And so that's how we survived in the beginning, as I connected with realtors. I've had a lot of people say, you're in restoration, you look like you should be a realtor or something. So luckily I connected with that niche, and started doing a lot of mold work, eventually got some water work out of them. So women can do it. You just have to put your mind to it. There's days I felt like I was batting my head against the wall, but you stay the course. And then eventually Alan came on board with us, and we really took off from there, because it's hard in the beginning when you're out there making sales calls and you land a job, and you're trying to bounce back and forth. And then to answer your question, Scott, my first year in business, I only did, I think, like $37,000, barely making. I didn't pay myself any money. I literally had sweat equity in my company, probably the first 4 or 5 years, believe it or not. But I am proud to say today, I think in 2015 or 16, we hit about $500,000. And my goal was to hit $1 million in revenues, because only, I think, 4% of women businesses ever achieve $1 million in revenues. And we achieved that goal, I think, in 2018. And I'm proud to say this year, with Connor coming on board with us several years ago full time, he's really stepped it up. And we've already achieved, I think, $2 million in revenues this year. And our goal was like 1.75. So we've gone from a woman in a band to, the revenues we have today, with probably, I don't even know, 9 or 10 company trucks. We have like 15, 17 employees. So, anything is possible when you put your nose to the grindstone and capitalize on a little luck along the way. And it also takes just a ton of hard work. So I'm really proud of what I've accomplished, my employees, and Alan, and my son Connor. So just here we are today. I'm in Kansas City, knocking out.
Thank you for sharing. A lot of times when people feel they buy a restoration business, they assume that you're buying into a franchise and the business is just coming in. And I actually thought that when I talked with you, And then when you mentioned BNI and all the Kansas City 101 events that you do, you were doing all of it. And I just say, wait a second, I thought you bought a business. And you're like, no, I had to build it from scratch.
I bought a job.
Yeah. And so I think that's just really inspiring for people that are starting companies. We have a lot of entrepreneurs that tune into the show. To make payroll for one employee is a huge step. And so
it's scary.
No one did you any favors along the way. And it's just really impressive. I didn't know that. And I had known who you were for like 3 or 4 years. So I think it's important to share because it inspires people that are running and starting businesses.
Well, I do want to make a point too, is a problem with a lot of small business owners, especially solopreneurs, well, not solopreneurs, but people like me that are, just doing it on their own with maybe a few part-time people, is if you're afraid to delegate and let go of that power, where you feel like you have to do everything yourself, you're really going to limit your growth because you just have to trust people because you can't do it all in 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day. I mean, you work a lot as an entrepreneur, but you have to take that leap of faith and start hiring people, training people. And that balancing act is hard and it's scary having to meet that payroll, but it'll motivate you because failure is not an option, right? So.
And here's your son. That's why we call her the boss lady.
This is a family show today.
It's a very family show. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Stephanie. Same with Scott. I hadn't heard all of your backstory, so that's amazing. Lynn, who are you? What do you do? And do you live in Kansas City, or how do you get on the show? I guess
I don't know how I got on the show. My name is Lynn Murray, and I actually was born and raised in Kansas City and lived there for a little while after college. But you could generously call Pittsburgh, Kansas, an exurb of Kansas City, I guess. We're about an hour and 15 minutes south of the 151st Quick Trip. We time it all the time going up there. But I teach at Pittsburgh State University, and I'm the Kels College of Business Director of Outreach and Business Engagement. And I met Scott yesterday at a golf tournament our Kansas City alum do to raise scholarships. So that's how I got there and got here. So I'm part of the marketing faculty here at Kels.
So the unique thing about the golf tournament is you would think that there'd be a lot of university and alumni tournaments in Kansas City. And I'm a weird nerd of business. And I always make it a point to go to the Pittsburgh State because there's such a great collection of business owners that are in Kansas City, but yet think of all the universities that we have that are related to this town. It's one of the few that continues to get together on a annual basis. Lynn, why do you feel people feel such a strong connection to Pittsburgh State? And then what's another thing that a lot of people may not know? People in the Kansas City business community know a lot of niches about Pittsburgh State, and they recruit very heavily out of your school, and they get very high-paying, great jobs.
Yeah.
So what keeps people coming together, and what's things that you wouldn't really know about Pittsburgh State that you want people to know?
Well, I'm going to start with the second question, a quick one. Our mascot is the gorilla. So when you see that the split face in Kansas City, you know that's a Pitt State alum. And we have a very passionate, dedicated alumni base. And I'm one of them. I did my undergrad and my master's here about 15 years apart. I came back here to do that and then ended up back here teaching. So it is home for many of us. And I think that is engendered by it's part of the culture is that once you're here, you are a gorilla, whether or not you graduate or not, we still count you as part of that family. Small class sizes. I was recruited coming out of my PhD program by my old business law professor who's still here. She knew my sister, she knew my brothers, she knew cousins, and she asked about them, 25 years after we had been to school here. Still here. I told her she can't retire until I retire. But it's that sense of community. It's that sense of family that you have. You're creating your own family here, and it follows with you, regardless of where your life takes you. You're still part of that family. I still keep in touch with students. I got to see a few yesterday who had graduated in the last 5 or 10 years, and loving seeing what's happening with them, starting families and getting promoted in their jobs. So we're here for them, and they're here for us. So.
And then last quick question, there is Chicken Annie's, Chicken Mary's, and Bardo's.
Yes.
Which is made famous by the Food Network and many other cooking shows. It's some of the most famous rivalries in the world. of restaurants.
Yes.
So what are you? Are you Chicken Annie's, Chicken Mary's, or Bardo's?
Now, I like all of them, including Gebhardt's, which is a little bit north of town. But our family.
Yeah, what a political answer on that one.
I know. Our family favorite is always Bardo's, the Idle Hour. I have an aunt and uncle who were introduced by the original owner, and that's where we've always gone. But regardless of where you go, you're going to get amazing fried chicken and some amazing locally grown or locally made bread, Frontenac bread that's still made in nearly 120-year-old oven, wood fired, with paddles and everything. So it's pretty special. But that fried chicken is good. And it was started, all of those fried chicken places, not Bardo's, but Chicken Annie's and Chicken Mary's, talking about women entrepreneurs. They were started by women when their husbands and fathers and sons and brothers were injured or killed in the coal mines down here, and they had no other way to make a living for their families and support their families. So they opened up fried chicken restaurants in their front parlors.
Yeah, when we think of Watka, one of the largest short-line railroad companies in the world, it was started by the wife going back to work at the university because they needed extra money to support the railroad parts business. That's now 4,000 people. When you think of the largest Pizza Hut franchise, the Bicknell family, which is now Mariner Wealth Advisors. And a funny twist is Aaron and I are on a board with Peter and Veronica Maluk. Veronica Maluk is from Pittsburgh, Kansas.
Yes, she is. I think she went to Colgan High School, our local Catholic high school here. So yeah, there are a lot of small town connections here that go on and do great things. And our natural affinity, of course, is for Kansas City because it's Kansas City.
Madison says Chicken Mary's all the way. I don't have a clue what you guys are talking about, so I'm just sitting over here.
Oh, you need to come down.
Fried chicken, Pittsburgh, Kansas.
It's really good fried chicken.
I do have 2 teenage boys that ask for fried chicken all the time, so maybe I'll make a family affair out of it. Well, I'll let you know which one our family's favorite is. Very political answer. I appreciate it, though. I wish I could learn to be a little more political. I just don't know how. All right, Ken, who are you? What do you do, and how do you end up in Kansas City?
My name's Ken Cheadle. What do I do? I run a consulting firm and I run a media group. The consulting firm I utilize, I used to work at CERN like 13, 14 years ago, and I left CERN and I opened up my own thing. Been a disabled veteran that's kind of helped out with the business. So I do contracts with them and other third-party contracts in that space. I also have a media group where we do podcasts and I go out and I do speeches, kind of like you, in different colleges, and we talk about adversity on the podcast. That's what it's all about. It's called The Adverse Effect. And we pretty much move everything throughout that whole piece to kind of get this community of folks out here to kind of let people know that you're not going through things by yourself, whether that's business, life in general, whatnot. You have a community base of folks that have done this, and how do they get through these things? And you do that by listening to their stories and picking up a couple of nuggets on what they do. But the breadwinner for my companies is definitely the consulting firm.
So you glossed over, where'd you grow up? Thank you for your service. How'd you decide to be in the military? And then did you sell your Cerner stock from 13? No, I'm joking. But no, give us the origin story of where you grew up and then how you chose to be in the service and how that benefits you today.
Okay, cool. So homegrown here in Kansas City, grew up here, lived all over Kansas City, grew up on Section 8, so that kind of moves you around when the vouchers run out.
Just to give clarification, can you explain to the audience what Section 8 is?
Section 8 is government assistance housing, whatnot. So growing up in a household with my mom and my 3 sisters, just didn't fit the bill. So we had to get vouchers to kind of stay where we lived. And they run out like every 2 years. And ours typically were in the winter time. So we end up moving during the winter all the time. But it allowed me to see a lot of Kansas City, I guess for the most part. And that environment and what that creates kind of put me in a kind of struggle mode. So when my father passed, we didn't have the money to pay for the funeral. I was working at Walmart at the time. So I ended up taking some DVD players back at that time to actually pay for, when I say take, I mean I stole the DVD players to pay for the funeral. They ended up catching me about it, a couple of weeks later. And then I went before a judge because I had gotten into a couple other troubles. And he told me military or jail. So I found myself in the military. That's how I ended up in the National Guard.
How are we going to gloss over that? That's an amazing part.
Wait, I didn't know that was a thing that judges did, right? Is this a thing that judges do a lot of times at that age?
I think that I had a lot of favor and blessings at that time. Most people that are in my space and you wind up in front of a judge in Overland Park, from my coach, you don't get out of those situations. And I end up being blessed enough to be out of that situation. And the National Guard is probably the best thing that happened to me as it relates to restoring some guidance and discipline after my father died, but also helping me go off to college, to see different parts of areas. Like I ended up working for a guy that cleans windows on new construction. He's a sergeant in the military still, and working with him, I was able to see things I never saw growing up in the Kansas area. So I went out to like Black Bob Road to do new construction homes. I'd never seen houses out in Black Bob Road. I didn't know houses without crabgrass and stuff like that. So it was interesting. And I think the thing that was really key for me was to discover that these people were ordinary people. Where I grew up, in order to achieve the level of success that I'd see when I went out there, I believed that you had to be a ball player or a lottery winner, some type of drug dealer or something of that sort. But being able to talk to those people and ask them questions, they were able to glean light to me like, hey, I'm a supervisor at Target, or I work here. And it was like, oh, this is obtainable. So it started to put the steps in my mind, like, oh, this is where this gap is. I can close this gap. And that kind of helped me shoot off of my success.
Okay, can we talk about your Instagram following? You have a huge Instagram following. I always peek at people's stuff while we're on.
You're like, man, you're just the amazing background. Aaron's like, let's check that Instagram following.
So here's my question: is you've become a national speaker and a lot of have you always shared this story in order, like, where you're saying you didn't know that? Have you gone into sharing that story? Is that how you, like, usually when people have a really big Instagram following or social following, it's because they've been a little more authentic and more vulnerable than other people?
Oh, yeah. So years ago, I actually discovered I used to have a YouTube channel, and I think that's what created some of the following in the book. But I think when I first came out and I started speaking, I had a real troubled time speaking because I would gloss over or kind of mute or take out things that were part of my story. I wasn't authentic in that space, but I realized that in order to reach people, and it's just something happened. I was just sitting around talking to folks, like kind of after a speech on the stage. I started telling the background, I was like, oh, why don't you share that? I'm like, why do y'all want to hear that piece of it? And I think after like walking through those things, talking to a therapist about some of those things, like looking back on it, talking to a therapist, put me in a space to where I could be vulnerable with folks. And I believe that it gets the better reactions out of people because they can relate to you more. So everything that I do these days is a lot of vulnerability in the way that I deliver, speak, all that, because.
And where can people buy your book, and what's it called?
It's called The Millennial Takeover. They can buy it off of Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, particular spaces.
And then do you speak, when you speak, do they have to book through an agent, or how do people get a hold of you to do speaking?
Oh, they actually book on my website. So KennethCheadle.com. They can go out there and there should be a spot on there where they can place a booking or whatnot. And we go all over. One of my best speeches was at Hallmark. I would like to do that. That was pretty cool to be at Hallmark back here. But I've spoken for a lot of different veteran organizations, a lot of different colleges and whatnot. It's always amazing.
And you're watching on LinkedIn. You can connect with him here on LinkedIn because he has a real decent LinkedIn following too.
Well, one quick question is Lynn and I don't know each other that well, but I know if I buy Bardo's, she would probably speak. And I don't know if anyone wants to hear Brett and I speak, but for Stephanie, Ken, and Aaron, when people book you, they're always nervous to be like, hey, how do they compensate you, or what is the cost? Are they able to find that information by just contacting you through your website?
Oh yeah, like my assistant or myself are very active on that. So she has her one sheet and her flyer. Every soon somebody pings, she's shooting it back. So that's how you keep the business working. But I like to also, like, if people contact me on there, depending on the people, I like to reach out to the folks that contact me and actually speak for myself. Like, if they do the email piece, I always offer, like, hey, can I actually call you on the phone and start to do that piece of it? I like to get that whole relationship built up prior to me coming. So I don't know. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think one thing that people, just educating the audience, because it's something that I didn't realize, was that, if you want to book someone to speak, you have hotel, you have travel, you have the budget of what it is to speak. And sometimes people reach out to me and say, hey, you're friends with so-and-so. Do you think they would speak? And I'm like, well, hey, what's your budget? And I go, hey, it's $2,000. I was like, I'm sure, Ken told me one time he's cool to talk with you, but I don't know if that fits his budget. But it's worth giving a call and just understanding that aspect of it. So that way people are prepared. Because I can't tell you, Lynn and I were joking around. There was a golf tournament. There's a gentleman that owns a beautiful business named Jeff Ney. And someone called Jeff to say, hey, the beer cart hasn't been around forever. Can you deliver us some beer? And here's a gentleman that runs his own company that's serving all these people. He's volunteering to raise money. And people are asking for the beer. Well, only people would know that have run charity golf tournaments and know that people just don't know any better. But people don't know if they want Stephanie, Ken, or Aaron to speak. They don't know to be like, wait, you mean I have to pay for that? So I think there's an educational thing that we all have to educate people on. You just go about it the best way you know how, but a lot of people don't know about it.
So for reference, and just to speak, because we never speak about this with speakers, so I love that Scott's bringing this up. Just for reference, that people that don't know this, because I agree with you, there's a lot of people that don't know this. Say if you were to book a big name like a Brene Brown or I don't know, a Rachel Hollis, I don't know if her numbers are still the same. That's $100,000 for the hour plus travel, right? So when somebody like Ken, Stephanie, me, when we hit you with a 5, 10, 15, I don't know where Ken, I'm trying to go up because I don't know what you charge. I start at 5, so I don't know what you charge. You're like, Aaron, get it back up. But somebody that has a lot of experience, that's actually a relative versus, great. Then go get a Brene Brown for $100,000. Most of y'all didn't budget for that, right? So understanding it as a business, I think, is what Scott's getting to.
I think another piece that people don't see from the back end is that the work that goes into it. Like, I don't just get up on stage and speak. Like, I take 45 days or some time to really march this out and put it in front of other people to get their feedback, reactions. Oh, I need to modify this. I need to modify that. And then you try to put forth a good product for people when they pay that type of money. So it's not just I'm getting up there and winging it. You're actually putting a great presentation for people. So.
Yeah, Aaron and I joke that we're a sports broadcast because we have a lot of athletes and speakers on there. But for instance, when someone Lynn knows really well that playing the golf tournament, Kendall Gammon is speaking, or Joe Goldberg is speaking, they come and really get to know the organization, just like you talked about, Ken. And so you can actually relate and say, Frank in HR does this, and our COO Susan does this, and because of that, we play together as a team. And when you're calling out the audience, you're getting them motivated and you're getting to a higher calling or something that really hits home. So there's a little bit more into the hourly than what the 10 hours of preparation and, oh, by the way, the lifetime and decades of living life gets you. So people just don't know that. And I didn't know that. So I just wanted to throw it out there. But I feel bad since he's my little brother and I'm always, just putting him down. I had to make him follow Ken, so I'll let Aaron segue.
I technically did it, Fred. Don't be mad at him.
No worries.
You were on after Ken. He was already here, so you were on after him. That's why it went like this. You should have been more on. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, listen. Who are you? What do you?
Tough act to follow, but yes, my name is Brett Havens. Again, happy to be here. But I work for a company called Checkpoint Technologies, one of the leading global organizations in cybersecurity. We're globally headquartered out of Tel Aviv, Israel, but with offices all over the country with 5,000 plus employees. And my role at Checkpoint is territory manager for the Kansas City region. So I pretty much have the 816 area code on the Missouri side and the whole state of Kansas. So I'm responsible for growing my current list of accounts while also going after new business. So as we all know, cybersecurity is always in the news. There's always something new that's going on. So it's a very exciting industry to be a part of. And there's, like I said, there's always something going on to learn and to do.
Brett, a couple of questions, but one is, you call on the largest accounts and organizations in the state of Kansas and in Kansas City. So we have a ton of people that are business development or CEOs that are growing their clients. How do you dissect a large corporation and figure out who you need to talk to, and like what advice do you have for someone that's trying to tackle a Cerner or the Wichita School District? Like, how do they go about learning how to even start off on the right foot?
Yeah. So you just really want to focus on the right vertical depending on the product and what you're selling. And at Checkpoint, we have a lot of different solutions, whether that's cloud security, network, endpoint, email, whatever you're looking to focus on. Trying to find those right people, maybe on LinkedIn or on a certain website where you can find their emails and really have a focused, targeted attack. And when you find those people, it's just about being relentless, not just doing 1 to 2 phone calls. It's that 5, 6, 7, 8 touch points, really mixing it up with LinkedIn, email, phone calls, voicemails, you name it. There's people have different types of approaches. There's quality, which I like to do, and sometimes there's quantity. So I kind of like to find that mix of both a little bit, where you're taking that extra time to do some research on that organization and what they're all about, by also upping those numbers to increase your chances of securing that meeting or deal long term.
You know what's interesting? I was just out to lunch with the largest architecture firm in town, and they've had a lot of attrition. And they said the number one reason why their employees take a meeting is because the recruiter is relentless, and they tell them they're not going to stop calling until they answer, which is a funny psychological trick to an introvert. So an introvert just doesn't want socialization. And so they don't want people reaching out. So they take the call thinking it's going to stop them. But then they're so nice as an introvert. They're nice. They're like, okay, I'll let you take me to lunch. So never in a million years did I think the aggressive sales pitch would work in Kansas City. But at architects and engineers, apparently it's working. For Brett, for your industry, what is some things that a lot of people don't realize? Like what's a common misconception that people don't understand about cybersecurity that we can all learn from?
Yeah, so the threat landscape has expanded like crazy in the last 3 to 4 years. Usually it was just in the perimeter security. You go to a building, everyone has desktops, computers, printers, everything within the confines. And that has expanded and blown up, and even more with COVID. And so you have laptops, phones, stuff just outside of your own perimeter that you can control in the cloud. And so a lot of people just think that we just do 1 to 2 things. But as I mentioned before, there's a lot of stuff in the cloud, endpoint, email security, network, managed detection response, threat cloud, you name it. There are so many solutions out there that are very unique, and they all do a little bit of the same, but they're a little bit different. So it's a very competitive space, but a lot of people are focusing on it. They don't want their name in the news, especially those CIOs and CEOs. So a lot of security budget is starting to be allocated and increase as the years go on. So as I mentioned, it's very competitive, but there's a lot that goes to it rather than just slapping on a license and calling it a day. There's a lot more that goes into it.
Scott,
Go ahead, Aaron.
do you remember when I asked the vice president of MasterCard on the show if he would pay a payout for a hacking?
Yeah, there's a very high level executive for MasterCard that actually lives in Kansas City. So Aaron asked a sensitive question at a time, but you can get away with it. It's kind of like how we ask sports questions. You know, what's unique is, from the insurance standpoint, people aren't even letting people get the limits they need for cyber insurance because insurance carriers don't even understand it anymore. So, working with companies like a Checkpoint or local organizations, even like a managed service company, it's now part of the game. Just kind of like, we're having to pay our associates more and more to join our companies, but we're not passing along the buck to the client. I think in all of the business world, we're eventually going to have to pass the buck to our client and start charging more, and even figure out that we may end up losing clients. But cybersecurity is one of many things that are just going up, but we're not charging our clients more. Aaron, I'll let you segue into the next question, but I'd love to ask you, your costs are going up as a business owner. Have you raised prices on your clients?
No, but I've cut costs. So we cut our office. And so we've done the opposite coming out of COVID. We needed to, but we did it backwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we've raised salaries and we've cut no, the answer is still work with me. I'm still too cheap. So that's the answer. How's that work?
Great sales answer. Just give me a call. It's like Ken. Hey, give me a call. Let's talk about it.
You know what I did learn during COVID, and then we're going to go on to the next section. What I learned in COVID is cost is relative, right? Because we actually brought up some Silicon Valley clients during COVID because that was the first time they'd ever look at anyone in the Midwest. And they kept thinking there was a catch because it was so low price compared to what people in my industry charge in Silicon Valley, even though it's the same work, but our overhead's so much lower, so we can charge a lower price. And they wanted more referrals and more stuff. It was a longer sales process because they thought it was a catch because the pricing, you're always learning the pricing too high. No, the pricing was too low. And I ever realized that could be a thing in business until during COVID, that people would think I was, I don't know, swindling them because the price was too low. But I told them I'd be happy to take more. So, all right. Well, Stephanie, let's chat. What has been your biggest win this past year and a half? It's been a weird year and a half for everyone, but what's been your biggest win?
Wow, our biggest win. We've had quite a few. Our biggest win is we have been really successful, and I give credit to Connor and our business development gal. We have been able to expand our content cleaning division dramatically. That we've had to move.
What does content cleaning mean?
Well, what that means is if you have a house fire or maybe extreme water damage, what have you, we come in and pretty much act as a moving company. So we come in, throw out things that cannot be salvaged, itemize, photograph all those items, and then we move everything that can be cleaned to our warehouse. So then we clean it and then we store it in these giant crates until you can move back into your home.
Is that an additional service that a lot of people in your industry don't offer?
Yeah, there are. That is a service that it's kind of a niche where a lot of our competitors do not offer that. But the thing is, as you expand that and take on more work, you need a lot of warehouse space because just think of I don't know what size of home you live in, but, we have to take, let's say an average 3,000 square foot house. Think of the space that takes up in crates, that we have to store in a warehouse. And then we get paid, to store that by the insurance carrier. But we have grown that so much that we moved in during COVID twice that year. And now we're looking at moving again. So, because you need to be able to
hopefully whoever moves you is an industrial real estate broker that refers you a lot of business. That's a good commission check for anyone that's listening.
Yes. But we hope we can find a space that we can stay in for a while because moving is just expensive. And as a business, it's, oh my gosh, the logistics of it, setting up your phones and computers, it's just, internet, all that. So that has been really exciting for us to expand that part of our business. And then we have also been successful expanding into the commercial side of the business. Traditionally, we did a lot of residential work. And so we've been wanting to get our hands on more of the, assisted living facilities, getting in with property management companies, et cetera. So that has been huge for us. So those are two blessings and goals that we have achieved over the past, year or two. So
I have a quick question for Stephanie that has nothing to do with business. Can I ask it? Scott's like, what are you going to ask?
Where's this going? I like it. It's going to be interesting.
Well, I moved into this new house to me, old house to other people. And I'm pretty sure somebody at some point snuck cigarettes in their closet, which happens to be my closet. I've replaced the carpet and painted. Are there any other tricks to get smoke out of a closet?
Well, I will tell you when it comes to odor, people think that's an easy fix and they try to pull a lot of tricks on that. And painting over cigarette smoke odor is like the oldest trick in the book. Just try to fool people, but it rarely ever works because those smoke particles are no different than a house fire. They're tiny, 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 and they get embedded into the drywall, which is semi-porous, also wood materials. And so if you have a home that has severe like cigarette smoke damage or even a closet, like in your situation, if you paint over it, you've just wasted time and money because we need to come in, properly clean and treat it for the smoke odor and then paint it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry.
That's a great question and a great answer because that's probably, think of like the normal person is going to come across something in their lifetime that's going to have that issue, and it makes a ton of sense.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think I just Googled it, right? And like
Yeah.
every amateur out there, I just followed that stuff. So I love that answer. So thank
Yeah.
you for letting me ask you a non-business question.
And then the same thing goes for mold, because a lot of people just want to paint over the mold and think it's going to just go away and hide out. It's the same thing. Eventually it
Ken
rears
and I
its
were like,
ugly
what?
claws and grows right back through the paint. So don't fall for that trick with mold.
And Lynn goes, mm-mm. Lynn's face on that. She goes, mm-mm. All right, Lynn, what has been your besides becoming best friends with Scott Havens yesterday? What has been your biggest win this past year and a half?
Well, for the College of Business, we started an accelerated MBA program, and I'm going to push that back in January of 2019. And 7-week courses. It's aimed at working professionals. They're all online. They're killer courses. It's the same content from 16 weeks, just crammed into 7. But we have over 300 students enrolled, 305 this semester. And since the first class graduated in December of 2019, we've had 184 graduates of that program. And I think it's the second largest in the state of MBA program in the state of Kansas.
Wow.
And we have the same business accreditation as KU, as Harvard, as Northwestern, as everybody else. So it's a really solid program.
That's a solid revenue generator.
Yeah, it's really a nice revenue generator in multiple ways. So on a personal, professional level, we've talked about increasing our enrollment of women in the College of Business for years, trying to figure out it's been lower than it should be. And we really started focusing on it last year, and we're doing a multi-generational approach. So we're focusing on high school students, college women, and then professional women at multiple levels of their career. And there are unique challenges that women face in the workforce. And we want to get our women out there and working and facilitate that as much as possible. So Stephanie, I wrote down your contact information. So
Awesome.
I'll be touching base with you soon about that. But we're really excited about it. Our women are excited about it as well. So that's my personal professional win this last year, is finally getting that up and running.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right, Ken, what has been your biggest win this past year and a half?
Survival. To be able to survive during that year was pretty rough. A lot of the hospitals in the consultant field hadn't come up with regulations for third parties to come back in, so we spent the whole year not being able to go in. So for me, a whole year without revenue was just like the first couple of months. It's like, all right, I can do this, I can manage this.
Kim, before you dive into that, what does a bread and butter client look like you? I always call it your single or your double that you love, that if people are watching the show, they'd be like, oh, I know that person.
Oh, hospital that's probably either making an upgrade or doing a new EMR system or whatnot platform, or making an upgrade to a platform, or you need support. We also start offer a new division where we offer support. So when Cerner typically comes into a place, they get you all up and then they leave, and then you need somebody to kind of maintain that system for you after they're already gone. So me and my team will come in and we kind of do it at a fraction of the price that they do it for. Because we kind of got a little bit more lay of the land, that's Cerner. So we do it at a fraction of the cost, but it also, we guarantee that we can maintain the hospital, do optimizations and things like that. So it's something that we didn't think about doing until the pandemic. Like, hey, we need to start offering some other things out here. So that grew out of that piece of it. So pretty proud about that.
Not to distract from your answer.
Yeah.
But you were saying a big win was?
Oh, it's just survival. Because like I was saying, in that space, to the first couple of months, you're like, okay, I can get through it. The next couple of months, like, I guess I need this personal time. And then like getting into the 5th and 6th months, this is how I got bald. Like I just started pulling the rest of it out. But it was a very trying time. But it allowed me to deal with things for myself, allowed me to go back and kind of relook at the business from different standpoints where we could sharpen up edges, where we could be better, more polished. Just a whole lot of self-evaluation, a lot of self-analysis came out of it, out of that survival. And then I would say like the biggest personal win was really getting off into meditation. I hadn't done it before. So being an entrepreneur, your life is just on the go, go. Somebody's calling, somebody needs you, your family, all these different things. You're poured in so many different ways. So actually taking the time out to actually do some personal self-help with meditation really cleared my mind on how I would attack things going forward and restructure my day-to-day regimen and how I do things. You know, everybody has a system, and I hadn't updated my system in years. So going through that pandemic, I'm like, hey, you know, let's start our day out at 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. You always run out of time. Let's push it up a little bit earlier. Sitting in the bed doing nothing anyway. So just, you know, restructuring my day-to-day life has allowed everything to start to flow a little bit smooth, allowed me to have time and breaks in my day where I can take a step back and actually see what's going on and do some things for me, opposed to just always been in the mix. You know, you can't see things. So even when the ship started to turn, I think if I would have had the ability to kind of step back and see things at that time, I would have been able to write it in some areas.
2 quick questions. Go ahead, Aaron.
I just pulling this up.
Thanks, Toby.
Toby's man. 2 quick questions. One is, what does the timing look like that for the meditation? So people just trying to understand, is it really just whenever you pull back? And then secondly, what was an unexpected revenue stream? I don't know if you already hinted at it with the ongoing service model, but what's the timing of the meditation like for you? Is there a pattern? And then what was an unexpected revenue stream for you?
Okay. The timing for meditation is 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night.
Wow.
You build
No
up.
wonder you're so chill.
Yeah. It needs to be. No, but I think it's good. Like, it really clears out a lot. So you don't think that 30 minutes is long, but I spend that much time reading the news in the morning before I get started. So it's like, let's take the news out. That's going to be there. Do this for you. And then at the same time on the back end, it's like, how do you rest your brain before you go to sleep and clear out some of all this spinning that happens? So it's like, I didn't get a good night rest because you have a lot of things churning up there. And if you can just put that at a good pace for a second, you know, for 30 minutes or whatever, I think it does well. One of the revenue streams I didn't expect to come in was virtual speaking. Had no idea that it was going to be a hit, and it's a hit. So, you know, you get your background set up the nice way, and you know, you still perform or perfect the speeches the way you want, but you can do it from a virtual standpoint. And I thought that was just like, wow. So like now going forward, I'll do in person and I'll do virtual because it's a great revenue. And it's, you know, it's me and the client in the sense that I don't have to travel out. So you take away those bookings for hotels and flight and still get a, you know, similar experience.
Love it.
Is it better than Stephanie's background? And then Stephanie, is that smoke in the background?
Is that smoke in the background?
Yeah.
No, that's just my, you know, my template. One of my templates, like
No,
my
I know,
marketing
but
template.
I didn't know if Aaron pulled the smoking question from there.
I think so. Am I on fire? I don't know.
You're good, Stephanie. He's just avoiding his little baby brother. So
That is the worst joke I've ever heard, Scott.
Maybe I'm blind right now.
Every week, I have to keep his face and not say everything that I'm thinking. Just kidding. Okay.
Oh, I am so
Some people
sorry.
just like to do that. I do want to touch on Ken's with the meditation. I've started doing some meditation too, but I've learned that you really have to train yourself to quiet your mind. I mean, even to do like 15 minutes. Did you find that in the beginning too, just to quiet your mind, that you have to really be intentional about that?
Yeah, yes. But I think that like the biggest hurdle is everybody thinks that it's going to be like zero zip going on in there. Like that's a whole nother level of mastery. I think the best about it is to allow things to flow in. Don't attach yourself to it. Let it flow in and flow out, and go right back to whatever your focus was. So your brain is always going to jump to something. Training what you're trying to train your brain to do is to break that habit. So every time I'm meditating, I'm like, oh, you got to do this in voice. Then I'm like, where's your breathing?
Push it away. Push it away.
Focus right back on that breathing, and then you just let it flow. So you're not fighting against it. You're going with the flow. A lot of times people want to resist things. In life, you start just going with the flow, less resistance, a lot of things start to happen more.
But then your mind learns to just be quiet. Like I've learned to do that. But then, you know, your thoughts quit coming in once you become more disciplined at it. This is what I've found.
It's a practice. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, Brett, let's talk. We got about 5 minutes left. Let's talk about your biggest win this past year.
Woo, rounded out the group. Those are all hard to beat. Our team just recently closed a deal that we've been working on for like almost 12 months. So it's a long sales cycle in cybersecurity sales, but it's with one of the larger local counties west of Kansas City, kind of a good size 6-figure deal. But the cool thing is it's a new type of deal that we created at Checkpoint that no other company can provide at the moment, where we consolidate your security tools underneath kind of like in a Checkpoint umbrella, similar to an insurance policy where you do like your home, auto, renters, etc., and you bundle it. And we do that with your security tools, and there's so much out there. But with consolidating that, it makes it easier for your team to manage. And that's becoming really increasingly important as responsibilities are expanding within these departments. But you're having it to do with less staff. So having a product that's really easily to manage over all types of different tools is a really big selling point. And most importantly, we're able to lower your total cost of ownership with this deal by consolidating these products. As we all know with insurance, as you're easy to bundle them, your rates go down and your spending, and we're able to provide it like in this really cool predictive cost model that CIOs and CFOs love, where you see what you're spending year 1, year 2, year 3, because security spend can be very unpredictable. So that really gets the CFO's attention when they're like, hey, Brett, I know what I'm spending year 1, year 2, so I know where to budget everything else. And on top of that, we can backload the contract. Similar, I like to use the analogy like a Mahomes contract, where we're able to backload it. So maybe the spending won't be as much year 1, year 2, year 3, but as your budget increases, we can make sure to raise that price year 4, year 5. So we have different flexibility options when it comes to that spending. So again, we're one of the only security providers that can really have that type of contract and consolidate your security tool. So back to it, big deal, took a lot of time, finally crossed the finish line. So now on to the next.
Wow.
Nice. Ken, that sounds a lot like Cerner contracts back in the day. That's a lot of creativity.
Yeah. That's the benefit of working for a large organization. There's just a lot of bells and whistles and tools that we can pull out since we are that type of large organization. So yes, to your point, Scott, yeah, there's a lot of pros to being flexible with that contract.
I got a question. From the end user, like somebody everyday
Gotta be 30 seconds.
Everyday Joes like us, like what would you recommend cybersecurity for us? Like, people that have little small businesses like us, do we need to invest in these things?
Yeah, I would do your research. To be honest, like just do your research. There's so many solutions out there. I would there's so many reviews and everything, kind of like Amazon. Just do your homework and figure it out. Ours are more kind of for the enterprise and commercial. I can't really speak to the individual. Unfortunately, there's not much money in that. But again, I would just do your research and figure out the best one.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of great managed service companies, Ken. So if anything, it would love to refer anything. Stephanie, and we're going to go around the horn. If you're going to a sporting outing.
Hold on. We've got 2 minutes left. So one word answers.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we are going to a sporting event, what is it that you are eating? You can go to Chicago, you can go to Kansas City. What is that prized item that you are going to eat if you're going to a stadium, any sporting event?
Probably a hot dog.
Mustard or ketchup?
Both.
Okay, Lynn, if you are going to a sporting event,
I'm going to say a hot dog as well.
Football event. What do you go ahead?
Oh, sorry. Hot dog as well with mustard and kraut.
Ken, sporting event. What are you going to get to eat and where?
I'm getting a cocktail drink from my food for a sporting event.
Yeah, get first things first. Now, Brett, where are you going and what are you getting?
Where am I going? Eat or drink. It would be just a tall 24-ounce Bud Light and a hot dog with mustard and ketchup. Simple man.
You know what? That's a Havens family tradition if I've ever heard one. Aaron, What about you? Where are you going? What are you going to get to eat?
Well, I drink everywhere, but at the Chicago Cubs game, they've got the nachos and those hats. Helmets, I think they're called. Those hat helmets.
That's perfect way to round out the show, Aaron, because that's why I brought this on, was I knew you were going to say nachos.
Those nacho hat helmets. How about you, Scott?
It's a hit. I mean, you know what? It's not often, after 70, 80 shows, you get to have your family on, but it's in our family, it's a Bud Light and a hot dog with mustard. But the real answer, the non-appropriate answer, is more the quadruple fist, where you have the person next to you. You're like, hey, I know I don't know you, but they won't let me carry more than 2 beers. That we're together. And then you get the 4 beer, and then you carry one on each side of the hand, and then the hot dogs go under the arm. That's what you do.
All right. Well, we're going to end the show on that note. I want to thank I don't know what else to say. I want to thank everybody here for coming on. Please reach out to our panel. They're all tagged on here. Reach out to them, connect with them, do business with them, hire them to speak, hire them to run your cybersecurity. Go Gorillas.
Yay!
So,
Yes.
all my college knowledge. Oh, that rhymed. Okay. Anyways, thank you so much to our sponsor, Bank of Blue Valley. Madison says you guys are awesome. Jeff says great peeps today again. And Carol said the power of mentorship cannot be underestimated. So thank you so much. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Have a wonderful week.